Get on the train before it leaves the station. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down, run them down.
Hello there, everybody. Okay, we're back again talking about Daniel Holtzclaw. Today we're moving on to basically what I would say is the next set of accusers, Florine Mathis and Tabitha Barnes. Now, what's interesting here is that Florine Mathis, her allegations end up coming to pretty much nothing. I mean, you're going to see even during her interview, that, you're just going to see that there's things about Florine Mathis that make her claims that Daniel touched her a little bit kind of unbelievable. To give you an idea what I mean by that, Miss Mathis, when this was all happening, in the previous 2 years to this, when this was going on and when these interviews were happening, but in the 2 years prior to that, she had been charged with assault and battery of a police officer 6 or 7 times. So this tells you what? This tells you this lady who was in her 50s. I think they say she's 57. But this lady had no fear of a police officer, and if she felt and if she has that many charges for assaulting a police officer, tells me she's not shy about getting physical with an officer if she feels that they're getting out of line. Am I right? That's what that tells me. So Florine Mathis's claims may eventually end up coming to pretty much nothing. But what's interesting is that Florine Mathis then leads to Tabitha Barnes, and that's going to be the interesting thing we're listening to here today. Now, the first thing you're going to hear covered here is Brian Bates is going to be talking about Detective Gregory on the morning that this starts, and it will announce that morning at the beginning here, the date, and on that morning, Rocky Gregory sets out on his mission. Okay, which is one thing, to call this person who Daniel had been checking through his computer, just like he had been checking Sherry Ellis through his computer, and that's why they eventually went to her and questioned her and did the line of, we have a tip, right? So now he's going to be contacting another young lady that Daniel was running through his computer more than once or twice or whatever. Apparently he had been running her through the computer a fair amount of times to where it was a red flag. And like I say, similar to the way of Sherry Ellis. Now, Detective Gregory calls her. While Detective Gregory's doing that, which you're going to hear about at the beginning of this, Kim Davis is talking to Florine Mathis, who is in lockup. Now, what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to let you hear the very, very beginning of that interrogation so that you can hear Kim Davis say the tagline, "We have a tip that you were assaulted by a police officer," basically, right? I'm gonna let us all hear that, so you guys hear that is the opening line with all of the African American women who have a history of prostitution and drugs. That is the first line that is always said. Okay, so it's interesting to point that out. Now, want to say a few other things about this. Now, you're going to find in this episode today that these two people are connected. Basically, after Kim Davis goes and talks to Florine Mathis, suddenly they're going and talking to Tabitha Barnes, who lives at the house referenced in Florine Mathis's interview. It's interesting. So they know each other. There's a lot going on there, and so it looks like they originally went to talk to Florine Mathis, and then ends up snowballing into Tabitha Barnes getting involved. And you're going to see there's a lot going on here. There's going to be another part 2 of this to go through the analysis of absorbing everything that I'm kind of going to be putting out here today. I want you guys to know I'm going to be cutting off, like I said, the Florine Mathis interview right after we hear Kim Davis say that line. What I am going to be doing, though, I'm not just forgetting about it. I think it's interesting, but what I want to do is I'm going to go in on Brian Bates' webpage. He has a link to the entire unredacted video, and what I'm going to do is make a sample of that, and I'm going to go in and isolate Florine's audio. Okay, for everywhere where Florine Mathis is speaking, I'm gonna isolate it, and then I'm gonna bump the volume up on it, so that we can hopefully get a little bit better audio quality and understand her just a little bit better, because it's very difficult to understand her. I'll go ahead and let the interview play for a minute, or for 30 seconds or so, just so you guys can understand that fact. And then, like I said, I will go and upload the Florine Mathis interview all by itself, where I've gone in and turned up her audio. Okay, so that's where we're headed. So these ladies, just some things you might want to just have kind of know, peripheral knowledge going into this. Mathis and Barnes are, buds. They smoke crack together. They both admit that they smoke crack together, and that all various things that they hang out at the house that Tabitha Barnes owns, and she even they even established that Mathis was working as the housekeeper for Tabitha Barnes for some time. Various things, but this is all that's going on. These two are very much connected, and suddenly these are the next allegations in line after the very sketchy ones that I've already pointed out to you already of Janie Liggins, Terry Morris, and Sherry Ellis, right? So those, I've already gone through those, and you guys have seen that there's some clear and serious issues in those first three allegations, and this investigation that was falling apart is not falling apart, because the investigators themselves are figuring out how to prop it up and keep it going as they go on the fly. It's pretty obvious that that's what's happening here, because you can see how much they're having. How much, when you, like just today, when you see what they ignore, when you see what they don't ignore, when you, at one point, one of the accusers says something that's so utterly ridiculous that Rocky Gregory just ignores it. He just ignores that it was said, and immediately moves to a different subject without even acknowledging it. It's pretty wild. So, but she says it, and trust me, I'll be pointing out to you when she says it what she just said and what is wrong with it. Because I'm telling you, Detective Rocky Gregory did not want people to know what was wrong with what she said. And he was hoping people wouldn't notice what was wrong with what she said. And that's why it doesn't make it into his official report. And that's, all those things. On and on and on we go. So, all right. So here we go. We're going to get into it. The first bit is going to be talking about somebody who Daniel knew. And Rocky Gregory is making contact with, and Brian Bates refers to her as Shannon. It's a completely made up name. It's just the name that he is making up for her, and he will describe Rocky Gregory's conversation with her, although it wasn't recorded as the Sherry Ellis one was. Supposedly, according to Rocky Gregory, he did not record this one. He did with Sherry when he was contacting her for the same reasons, but he didn't record when he was contacting Shannon. So, interesting again. And then, like I said, after that, it'll lead into the Florine Mathis interrogation, or interview. And like I said, you'll hear at the very beginning the tagline, we got a tip. And you guys all know that tip is non-existent. That tip is a profiling list created by biased officers. So here we go. Let's just get into it, and we'll start looking at the information here, and I'll jump in here and there and give you some of my thoughts. Alrighty, here we go.
In the investigative timeline, it's August 13th, 2014, and Detective Rocky Gregory is poring over a stack of papers detailing everyone Officer Daniel Holtzclaw had run through the police department's databases in the last few months. You'll recall it was in episode 9 that accuser Sherry Ellis's name stood out because she had been run through the Varuna databases numerous times over the course of 3 shifts. On this morning, another name stands out. Just a quick side note, because this person ends up having very little significance to this case, I'm only going to refer to her as Shannon, which is not her real name. According to the printouts, Holtzclaw ran Shannon's name multiple times. Detective Gregory utilized the same law enforcement databases to obtain a telephone number and personal identifying information for Shannon and gave her a call. The following information comes directly from Detective Gregory's official investigative police report. The first thing that stood out to me when I read this report was that the telephone call with Shannon was allegedly not audio recorded. Yet, when Ellis was identified as a possible victim of Daniel Holtzclaw's because of the same suspicious name inquiries, her initial telephone contact was audio recorded. Additionally, according to Detective Gregory's report, he started the telephone conversation with Shannon by stating, quote, "I introduced myself and I asked Shannon if she had ever had any problems with an officer," end quote. You'll recall that when Sherry Ellis was contacted, she was told that police had a tip that she had been sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer, a statement so inappropriate that even she denied it at trial. Both women were flagged because they had been queried by Holtzclaw multiple times, yet only one was recorded, and that same woman was the only one told up front that police believed she was the victim of a sexual assault by a police officer. The only difference I could find is the fact that 39-year-old Ellis is a black female with a criminal history who resided on the northeast side of Oklahoma City, while Shannon, the one who wasn't recorded and wasn't told they thought she had been sexually assaulted, was a 23-year-old white female professional bikini fitness model who resided in Edmond, an upscale suburb of Oklahoma City.
Okay, wait. Let's just slow down here for a second. So you're telling me that the investigators chose to have some tact when they were speaking to perky, attractive, young blonde women from the burbs? Suddenly they decided to have some tact and didn't just come out with, "We got a tip that you were assaulted by a police officer with OKCPD," or whatever, right? The same line that we're about to hear in a little bit when we get on to Florine Mathis here. But yeah, they took a different approach there. Interesting. I think it's interesting because what's interesting about it is the fact that it's because Daniel had run Shannon through his computer some number of times, but he had also done that to Sherry Ellis because he was checking up on Sherry Ellis. Now, is it somewhat embarrassing for Daniel that he might have been still checking up on his, this girl that he went out with? Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing that he was using the police computer for that, but I don't believe he was doing anything wrong, because this girl still was claiming that he was a friend of hers and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's interesting. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out before we move on.
Regardless, Shannon responded to Detective Gregory's vague question with, quote, "She said she really hadn't, but her friend Daniel Holtzclaw is in trouble for supposedly messing with girls," end quote. She went on to say that she didn't know any details about the allegations, but that she met Holtzclaw because they were both on the same bodybuilding team at a gym in northwest Oklahoma City. Shannon explained to Detective Gregory that she dated Holtzclaw in January and February of 2014. She said it was a physical relationship and that she considered Holtzclaw's sex drive to be pretty normal, and that they had sex about every other day. Shannon was specifically asked if they used condoms or if Holtzclaw ever asked for anything unusual during sex or made her uncomfortable. She replied that they did not use condoms and that she never had any issues with Holtzclaw. Shannon went on to state that she has no problem with Holtzclaw and that they still compete on the same bodybuilding team. However, when asked, Shannon did verify that she has never had any contact with Holtzclaw as a police officer and that he had no official purpose to run her information through the police department's databases. By giving the name of another female fitness model on their team that had had a longer dating relationship with Holtzclaw. I couldn't find any information that Detective Gregory or Davis contacted that individual. I'm not going to dwell on this because its significance is very debatable, but a handful of Holtzclaw's past girlfriends were contacted during this investigation, and Holtzclaw definitely had a type. All were extremely attractive, very into working out, and took that passion to a higher level by either competing and/or working as fitness models. Holtzclaw also dated women of different ethnicities. When interviewed by investigators, none had anything negative to say about him. Regardless, while Detective Gregory was seeking out bikini models to interview, Detective Kim Davis began her day and her next investigative report with the same opening line she would use time and time again. Quote, "Lieutenant Musney gave me a list of several females that he wanted contacted because they could be possible victims of Officer Holtzclaw. When he gave me the list, we had still not found a match to the unidentified female DNA found on Officer Holtzclaw's pants." End quote. One of the names on that list was 53-year-old Florine Mathis. When Detective Davis searched the police database, she learned that Mathis was currently being held in the Oklahoma County Jail on a charge of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. Detective Davis and Homan drove to the Oklahoma County Jail, had Florine Mathis pulled from her cell, and then escorted to an interview room. The following is the audio from that interview. This original interview is about 25 minutes long. The audio is fairly poor, and Mathis's answers are often not audible. For those reasons, I have edited this audio for time and quality. You can watch and listen to the unedited video at this episode's homepage on HoltzclawTrial.com or on the Bates Investigates YouTube channel for Season 1.
I'm Detective Davis, Kim Davis, my partner, Detective Homan. How come you're in here? Just out of curiosity.
For assault and battery with a dangerous weapon.
Oh, did you kick somebody's ass? Okay, we're not here about that. We're not working that case or anything. We received it, we work in sex crimes, okay? And we received a tip. We're in the middle of an investigation, and during that investigation, a tip came across that you may have been sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. And we received a tip. We're in the middle of an investigation, and during that investigation, a tip came across that you may have been sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. Get a chair. Do you want to play next?
I don't even remember what day it was.
Doesn't matter. We'd like to talk to you about that. And we'll take as much time as you need. I'm going to take some notes if you don't care. Do you remember? Can I ask some questions? Are you ready? Do you remember what month it was?
No.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't mean this in a bad way, and I'm not judging or anything. Were you on drugs that day? Okay. That's fine. What were you using that day?
Crack.
Okay.
And I've been drinking. That's all I can.
Haven't heard anybody else say anything about it. Do you have any questions?
Okay, so that last 7 or 8 seconds there in that clip, that was actually part of that was actually from the end of the interview, towards the end of the interview. I went ahead and left it in there because it's interesting. You hear Kim Davis asking her, "Do you know anybody else that has been assaulted or whatever by Daniel Holtzclaw. Okay, she doesn't give much of an answer in between Kim and asking that question and then asking the next question, which is, do you have any questions? Because she doesn't really get much of an answer audibly. And then Kim says, do you have any questions? To which we finally get this slightest audible sound from Florine Mathis, where she says, So she's basically, to my mind, she's not speaking up about anybody that this happened to. So it makes it all the more interesting that they're showing up at Tabitha Barnes' doorstep when obviously Florine Mathis didn't answer that question in a way that would give them cause to go and see Tabitha Barnes. That's all I'm saying. That's what I find interesting about that. Makes me wonder if there was a little bit of a conversation that went on when the tape wasn't rolling. Honestly, is what it makes me think. So, here we go.
Honestly, at first glance, there's not a lot to this interview. I do, however, want to point out that Detective Davis takes some liberties when she claims in her official investigative report that when she asked Mathis if she was ever sexually assaulted by a police officer, Mathis, quote, immediately dropped her head and started crying, end quote. You can watch the video for yourself. There is zero evidence that Mathis is doing anything other than lowering her head and pausing as she gathers her thoughts.
And here you will be able to see for yourself exactly the part of the interrogation he's talking about.
We received it. We work in sex crimes, okay? And we received a tip. We're in the middle of an investigation, and during that investigation, a tip came across that you may have been sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. Get a chair. Do you want a Kleenex?
I don't even remember what day it was.
Doesn't matter. Sorry. All she said so far is she didn't remember what day it was. We'd like to talk to you about that. And we'll take as much time as you need. I'm going to take some notes if you don't care. Do you remember? Can I ask some questions? Are you ready? Do you remember what month it was?
No.
Okay.
There are no audible sobs, nor shedding or wiping of tears. Regardless, Florine Mathis, who is known to go by numerous aliases, claims that while she was out walking and under the influence of crack cocaine and alcohol, she came into contact with patrol officer Daniel Holtzclaw. She claims this was the third time that he had stopped her, and that during one encounter there was also a female officer on scene. For most of the contact in question, Mathis says she was seated on the curb and that Holtzclaw was outside his patrol car, standing next to her. Mathis claims that nothing inappropriate occurred until she went to stand up. At that point, Officer Holtzclaw offered his hand to help her. Mathis said she had previously had surgery on her left hand and that Holtzclaw's grip caused her some pain. So she pulled her hand away and said she could get up on her own. Mathis is fairly vague on what happened next, but generalized that Holtzclaw briefly fondled her breasts on top of her clothes as she got up off the curb. She claims that he stopped because either a car drove by or someone came out of her house. She can't remember which. Mathis said the interaction with Holtzclaw ended about that time and she simply walked away. She stated that since that encounter, she hasn't told anyone and simply was trying to put it behind her. While some may be tempted to dismiss this incident as nothing more than a she said, he said, there are a handful of details worth mentioning that, in my opinion, should have caused Detectives Davis and Homan concern as to the truthfulness of Florine Mathis. So let's take a closer look at her allegations. For starters, Mathis says she has had contact with Holtzclaw on 3 separate occasions. The first contact was allegedly in December of 2013 or January of 2014, near Northeast 18th and Stonewall. This would have been very near Florine Mathis's sister's home. Mathis gave a detailed account of how Holtzclaw had called a female officer to come to the scene to perform a search upon her. At that point, she said she admitted to the female officer that she had a crack pipe on her and that the officer took the crack pipe and smashed it on the ground. Further investigation by Detective Davis revealed that Mathis was either mistaken or outright lying. While a stop did occur in that area and in that general time frame, Holtzclaw was not the male officer involved. The male officer was identified in court testimony as Officer Jones. More importantly, though, there was no evidence that a female officer was ever involved in that stop. Mathis said her second contact with Holtzclaw was near Northeast 16th and Jordan and was either in March or April of 2014. Detective Davis researched this alleged contact and did verify that Holtzclaw did stop Mathis on March 25th of 2014. The following is the radio traffic from that stop.
Tuesday, March 25, 2014, 16, 51 and 34 seconds.
Unit number and go ahead.
Charlie 45, got one to run all the way through.
25, 2014, 16, 52 and 0 seconds.
I got one to run, goes with my 2 aliases. Last name is going to be Mathis. That's Mary, Adam, Tom, Henry, Ida, Sam. First name is going to be Florence. That's Frank,
16,
Lincoln, Ocean, Robert,
52 and
Edward, Nora,
20
Charles,
seconds.
Edward. Date of birth is 60, black female. Also goes by the last name of Gibson, first name of Lynn.
Can you spell Gibson and Lynn, and is it still the same date of birth?
52 and 40 seconds.
Same date of birth. Last name Gibson's George, Ida, Baker, Sam, Ocean, Nora. First name is Lynn, Lincoln, Young, Nora.
10-4. Charlie 45. She had 2 city IUWs under Mathis, David Henry 1, Paul Sam 3. Clear out to Gibson, Lynn.
No, it's a 4.
This stop occurred near Northeast 15th and Jordan. Mathis did have city warrants for her arrest, but Holtzclaw did not ticket her or did not take her to jail. Mathis claims nothing inappropriate occurred during this stop. As for the third encounter detailed by Mathis, the one involving the sexual assault, well, that one's a bit more complicated. Detective Davis was able to verify that Holtzclaw did indeed come into contact with Mathis on April 14, 2014 at about 6:30 p.m. The following is the radio traffic from that stop.
45 out on 15th and Jordan, processor. 15th and Jordan. I'm good.
Monday, April 14, 2014.
Charlie 45, I got one to run. Last name of Gibson, George, Ida, Baker, Sam, Ocean, Nora. First name of Lynn, Lincoln, Young, Nora.
Monday,
Other alias name of Florence Mathis, social 440. She gave it a date of birth of 11/60, black female.
As the 2 sound bites of police radio traffic point out, despite what the prosecution and the media would like you to believe, patrol car GPS was not necessary to pinpoint the dates and locations of Holtzclaw's encounters. He literally called them in, with no attempt to hide his activities. Holtzclaw's radio traffic was then compared to his patrol car GPS for confirmation. The third encounter, though, the one allegedly involving the groping of Mathis's breasts, does have some significant contradictory details. Mathis said she had left a residence at Northeast 16th and Jordan, where she had been drinking alcohol and smoking crack cocaine all day. She claimed she was on foot, headed to her sister's house, and had made it to either Northeast 17th or Northeast 18th Street and North Kate Avenue. That's when Officer Holtzclaw approached her in his patrol car from behind. Right there is a huge discrepancy, and Detective Davis and Homan know it. According to Holtzclaw's radio traffic and patrol car GPS, Holtzclaw actually stopped Mathis near Northeast 15th and Jordan, or only about a block away from the crack house she said she had just left. That's a huge difference of almost half a mile. Furthermore, Mathis claims that she was headed west, towards her sister's home, which would have only been a couple of blocks from where she claimed she was stopped by Holtzclaw. Yet, she says when the stop was over, and just after Holtzclaw had fondled her breasts, she walked in the opposite direction of her sister's residence to a park that was in the immediate area. She then turned around and headed back to her sister's home. Well, if you bring this all up on a map, and I have one published to this episode's homepage at holtzclawtrial.com, there is no park in the immediate area of the Northeast 15th and North Jordan Avenue stop that we know took place with Officer Holtzclaw. But there is the Riley Leroy Pitts Park on the corners of both Northeast 17th and 18th Streets and North Kate Avenue, and that park is directly in the opposite direction of where she was headed, just as she described. However, GPS records don't show that Holtzclaw ever made a stop in the area she is insisting it happened, on 17th or 18th Street, just off Kate Avenue and next to a park. This is a huge discrepancy. With the misidentification from the first stop, involving an alleged female officer that never actually happened, and now details of the most recent stop that match her description of a location, but not the location where Holtzclaw actually encountered her, this leaves open the very real possibility the event in which she was sexually assaulted actually involved a completely different police officer, if the sexual assault actually ever occurred at all. I feel it's important to point out that Mathis testified during the trial that she estimates she has been arrested some 30 times by different police officers and has a lengthy criminal record that includes time spent in prison. Which brings up another concern I have. Mathis states that Holtzclaw tried to help her up, and he inadvertently hurt her hand and then intentionally fondled her breasts. According to her, she just stood there, too scared to say or do anything. While I'd accept that as the truth from many people, I have my doubts when it comes to Florine Mathis. She may be 53 years old, but she is anything but meek or timid. You'll recall, she was in jail for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon when detectives first met with her. At trial, it was revealed that Mathis has multiple arrests for not only assault and battery utilizing weapons, but also physically assaulting police officers. In fact, Mathis agreed at trial that she has been arrested in 6 or 7 different jurisdictions for felony assault and battery upon a police officer. I can't imagine Mathis would just stand there while Holtzclaw or any other officer fondled her breasts along the side of a neighborhood street and in broad daylight. And what about the timing of the stop she claims resulted in her being fondled? While she does state the time as between 6 and 7 p.m., which matches the time for the Northeast 15th and Jordan stop, she claims that the stop happened while it was, quote, kind of dark out, end quote. Sunset for that date is recorded as 8:02 p.m. She was stopped a full hour and a half before sunset. It would have still been plenty light out during the time we know Holtzclaw stopped her. Unlike Liggins, Morris, and Ellis's allegations, Mathis said that at no time was she placed in the back seat of Holtzclaw's patrol car. Instead, she was seated on the curb near his vehicle. And, just like the Morris and Ellis stops, Holtzclaw spent a significant amount of time inquiring as to what the women may have known about the criminal activities in the area, specifically prostitution and drug trafficking. Also, contrary to popular myth, Mathis didn't have any active warrants, the same as Morris and Liggins. There's something else disturbing that stuck out to me. Mathis clearly told detectives that she could pick her attacker out of a photo lineup. But, as we know, Detective Davis refused to show any accusers a photo lineup after Terry Morris failed to pick him out. Detective Davis's investigative notes revealed that she returned to the Oklahoma County Jail the next day. She claims the purpose of that visit was simply to take an oral DNA swab or buccal swab of the inside of Mathis's mouth and to get some basic background information. So, she didn't bother to record the interaction. You probably recall that Detective Gregory used that same excuse when he returned to visit accuser Terry Morris in jail and conveniently neglected to record most of what turned out to be a very incriminating interview. When we get to the trial episodes of this podcast, I'll fill you in on some additional details, including how Mathis conveniently claims the groping occurred on the second encounter with Officer Holtzclaw and not the third, as she stated during this part of the investigation. And one other interesting bit of information. While detectives, prosecutors, and the media all make a huge deal out of the fact Holtzclaw wasn't arresting these women on their insignificant misdemeanor cost warrants, it was revealed that when Mathis testified in court, she had 10 active felony warrants for her arrest, and no law enforcement officers or detectives had shown any interest in taking her into custody leading up to her appearance in court.
Wait, what? How many felony warrants was that again?
It was revealed that when Mathis testified in court, she had 10 active felony warrants for her arrest, and no law enforcement officers or detectives had shown any interest in taking her into custody leading up to her appearance in court. And there's something else very significant about the Northeast 15th and Jordan location, where Mathis was twice previously stopped by Holtzclaw. It's actually within just a few feet of a suspected crack house that Holtzclaw had been keeping an eye on. And the female occupant of that alleged crack house? Well, she is about to insert herself into this investigation as yet another victim. And Mathis claims she not only knows this accuser, but she smokes crack with this accuser and worked as her housekeeper at the time. But that's for the next episode. Here's a quick recap of the red flags from this episode.
Okay, so as you heard Mr. Bates say right there that Florine Mathis has a connection to Tabitha Barnes, and Tabitha Barnes crops up the next day, basically, and she's claiming that something happened. Now, it gets tricky with Tabitha, folks. I mean, I know some of you are going to have an issue with the fact that she claims that Daniel went into her house one time. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but there's a whole lot of circumstance around it, and the fact of the matter is that Daniel was constantly pulling people over who were saying they got crack from this house. And so he was concerned because there was a bunch of young kids living there. And so, look, if Daniel did go into this house, it's wrong. He shouldn't have done it. But I also understand why he might have been doing it. He might have been concerned about those young kids and the fact that they were living in a crack house. So I can understand how Daniel might have been torn in this situation. I know I might have felt torn. I wouldn't have liked seeing a bunch of kids that were living in this crack house. Because, folks, let's be honest about it. Tabitha and Florence, these women are in their 50s, folks. These women are in their 50s. I mean, come on. It's one thing if you're a drug dealer and your life is dictated by your fix when you're in your 20s or in your 30s. You know what I mean? fine. We're all young once, and we all have our days, right? But by the time you're getting into your 50s, if you haven't started to kind of mature out of that, and that's really, really disturbing. You know what I mean? So I can imagine Daniel might have had some issues with the fact that there was, kids living in this, what he knew to be a crack house. So I understand some of you may judge Daniel harshly, but keep in mind what I just said when you consider that kind of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and move into it now. We're going to listen. Mr. Bates is going to explain to you a couple things here about how they approached Tabitha and how it went down, and then eventually when they actually talked to her. It's interesting the way it goes down, and Brian Bates is key. Is very, very keen, I should say, to explain or give some ideas of what he thinks is going on with some of the oddness here. With the way they terminate the first interview and some of the things that happen, the way they go back and talk to Florine Mathis again after the supposed failed first interview, which they didn't record, even though Rocky had called one of his supervisors down there. Just truly bizarre stuff. So, all right, here we go.
Detective Gregory begins his official report of this date with the following notation. At 1400 hours, I went to try to locate Tabitha Barnes at her residence in the 1500 block of Northeast 15th Street. In looking at suspect Holtzclaw's record checks of females, Tabitha Barnes's name stood out. Also, initially, she matched a possible profile set aside by Lieutenant Musney. That profile is the quote-unquote list made by Lieutenant Musney that later will be denied to actually exist. According to Detective Gregory's report, he did locate Tabitha Barnes at her home in Northeast Oklahoma City. And, like with so many of the black females with criminal histories that he profiled, he began his conversation by stating, quote, I introduced myself and advised that I had a tip that maybe she had been the victim of an unreported sexual assault, end quote. We don't know if he added the words, by an Oklahoma City police officer, and we don't know that because Detective Gregory conveniently decides when he will and when he won't record his investigative conversations. We can only assume that he most likely did use those words and simply didn't bother to note it in his report. Why can we make that assumption? Because we already know he does use those words in all of his recorded interactions. Well, except those with young white bikini models living in Edmond, as I pointed out in the beginning of episode 10. Regardless, according to his report, Detective Gregory apparently has an entire conversation with Tabitha Barnes wherein she claims, quote, she was indeed touched inappropriately by an officer. Tabitha advised that an OCPD officer had been harassing her on more than one occasion, end quote. What happens next, especially when taken into context with the entirety of Detective Gregory's investigation, really concerns me, and it should actually concern anyone who values the integrity of criminal investigations. According to his official investigative report, upon Barnes's alleged admission of inappropriate behavior by Holtzclaw, Detective Gregory contacted Lieutenant Musney by phone and asked him to come to their location to sit in on the interview. However, what he allegedly doesn't do is bother to audio record any of what was apparently a long, very detailed, and very odd interview. According to Detective Gregory's report, Tabitha Barnes details an initial interaction wherein Holtzclaw allegedly made her expose herself and then allegedly touched her breasts. Barnes then begins to tell Detective Gregory and Lieutenant Musney about a second encounter with Holtzclaw. However, she apparently begins to nod off and can't even remain conscious. I'm guessing her speech probably was fairly erratic and unintelligible at this point. Detective Gregory notes in his report that they are unable to proceed with the interview and that they agree to leave and come back the following morning at 10 a.m. Gregory tries to downplay this as simply Barnes's reaction to prescription Ambien and the fact she claims to have been up all night taking care of her grandbaby. I'd be okay with giving Barnes the benefit of the doubt if it wasn't for the fact Detective Gregory conveniently claims he didn't record any of this interaction. And then later at trial, we find out that Barnes often smokes crack cocaine, and then Barnes actually shows up to testify while high on PCP. A fact that was only confirmed when trial judge Timothy Henderson ordered Barnes to undergo a drug test on the spot. Regardless, when Detective Gregory returned the following morning at the prearranged time, Barnes was nowhere to be found. According to Gregory, he returned to Barnes's residence at least 5 times and called her contact numbers to no avail over the next couple of days. Finally, on August 17th at about 2:15 in the afternoon, Detective Gregory was able to locate Barnes at her home. Barnes claimed that she had caught up on her sleep and was able to continue with the interview. Unlike the first interview, Detective Gregory did record this interaction. The following is the complete audio recording of that meeting.
What is today's date? Tabitha? You know? 17th. It's Detective Gregory, Oklahoma City Police Department. I'm here with Tabitha Banks here in front of her Barnes. I'm sorry. Too many names. I apologize. Here at Northeast 15th. We're here to finish up our interview. We spoke briefly the other day, but we're going to go ahead and finish it today. Tabitha wanted to complete the interview. Okay. On the, what is your middle name, Tabitha?
Jean.
Jean? G-E-N-E?
J-E-A-N.
Okay, all right. And your date of birth?
73.
Okay, what's your social?
445.
Okay, all right. Now, we had completed everything on the first incident, right?
Which place?
Right, where it was snow on the ground. You said it was the 4th, but you don't know what month. And that's where the stop was, right here.
That was March.
That was March?
March 4th, about 12:30.
Okay. But that's the one we had already covered, correct? The other day when Lieutenant Musney was, and then you pulled into here, and they ended up dispersing. He after everybody was gone, then that's when he had you lift your shirt up, and then he also lifted your breast, correct?
Yeah.
Everything that was the first incident,
That was the
correct?
first incident.
Okay. So that was March 4th, okay? And I will put that down, okay? You seem a lot more clear-minded today. The other day you was pretty tired, wasn't you?
Oh, God, I had that baby. It cried too much. Took my Ambien. I was sleepy.
Well, I know. Yeah. You were pretty tired that day.
I took my Ambien. I was ready to go to sleep. I was tired.
Okay. So I've got that part down pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
correct? He didn't touch you any other way except for lifting the breast that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Now we were getting ready to talk about the second incident.
The second incident,
How much later?
about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
I pulled up and someone had broken out my house. Therefore, my landlord had to fix the door. The door was just open. When I pulled up, it was another guy. Well, I pulled on the side over here, and there was a guy in the grass. So that's what I thought the police was here for. No, he was him.
Was the police already here when you arrived?
Yeah, he was.
Where was he parked?
Right here.
Right.
Right
over
in the
here.
middle of the street.
Okay. What time did you said this is 2 weeks later. What time of day are we looking at?
About 9:30.
About what?
It's by 9:30 at night.
9:30.
9:30.
Okay.
And he had been all in my house.
So when you pull up here, you parked over there.
Because I seen a guy laying out in the grass.
And the police was here.
And that's what I thought they was here for.
Okay. And you go where?
I get out the car, he called me by name in the grass and tell me to come here.
The officer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the officer's standing outside.
When he see me pull up, he gets out his car. And I'm looking at the guy on the grass. And he called me by my name, told me to come here.
What's he call you by?
Tabitha. I'm like, what is it now? And he said, you got drugs on you? I said, why do you keep asking me, do I have drugs? If I had drugs, something was cut off my gas. So if I sold drugs, do you think I'd be in a cold house waiting on DHS to pay my rent? Pay my gas bill? But let me talk to you again. So a guy friend of mine was over here, and he was asleep. Well, he was all in my house. He said, I just walked all through your house. Da-da-da-da. I was like, okay, you didn't see nothing in my home, illegally. Why do you keep harassing me? Well, get in the car. That's when they get in the car. Told me to get in the car again. So I got in the back seat, and he told my daughter, I said, you scaring my child? Me? I said, yeah, you. So he told Tabitha Barnes to come here. He said, am I scaring you? He said, yeah. She said, yes. Why do you keep bothering my mama? Because I talks to my girls. And I told her what happened. Well, he was like, ask me again. Do you got anything on you? I said, well, no. Asked me to raise up my shirt again. I done it. Which I didn't have them on at the time.
You did?
I didn't.
Didn't? Okay.
Asked me, did I have anything in my pants? And I said no. He asked me, let me see. And I just did. He didn't put his hands in it. I just did like this. I had on some leggings. And he just, said, open your leggings. And that's when there was a $20 bill in the back seat. And he was like, you didn't take my money, did you? I said, take your money for what? I didn't even notice the $20 until he said something. So I looked, and there was a $20 bill in the back seat. Ran my name again. Like, when you gonna take care of your tickets? I said, me and my father's working on it. He let me go again. 2 days later.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there, okay? Because I wanted you to run down through it to have a clear mind, okay? Now I'm gonna back you up on that one. I want to cover everything, okay? The more you cover with me, hopefully you won't have to cover this, later on unless you want to, okay? That's my game plan. Okay. Now I do know it's 2 weeks after March, so we're still in March. It's 9:30 p.m. You park over here on Jordan.
On the side of the house.
And he is parked here.
In the middle of the street.
Here on Northeast 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who is with you in the car?
Me, my 11-year-old, and my son.
Okay. Your 11-year-old is who? Is that
Ariana.
Ariana. Okay. And your son?
Marcus.
How old's Marcus?
He's 7.
Okay. All right. So he says, "Come here." Where you said there was a guy in your grass?
Yeah, just laying there. And I'm like, you over here harassing me. Why you want? Who is this? Who is this? What's going on? Well, I'm thinking something wrong with the guy. He kicks the guy, told him to get up and move on. Didn't ask me his name. What's wrong with you? You need an ambulance? Nothing. Kicks the guy. Get up. Move on.
And the guy moves.
Mm-hmm.
What did the guy look like?
I don't know. It was like there's so many people be up and through here. I don't know. I didn't even know the guy.
White guy, black guy?
Black. He was black.
Okay, but unknown. Okay. So that guy moved on.
Yeah, walked that way.
So he moved northbound there on Jordan. Okay. All right, but he tells you to come here. Does he sit you in the police car?
Yes.
Okay.
In the back seat.
Okay. Okay, and your kids are still in the car?
No, they got out. We're standing in the yard.
Okay. Okay. Now this is the part where I'm going to really slow down. He takes you, puts you in the car, back seat. What side were you on?
His side.
Okay, so you're on the driver's side. Okay. What's he do next? As soon as he says, "Come here," puts you in the back seat. Did he already search you?
No.
Okay, so he sits you down.
He always put me in the back seat.
Okay. And what's he
Asked
say?
me the same thing.
What did he say?
Do you take care of your tickets? I said, I'm working on it. Then that's when he asked me, you got drugs on you? And that's when I said, if I sold drugs, my gas wouldn't be out. I wouldn't be waiting on DHS to help me pay my bills.
As far as that statement goes, I'm going to say this. Not if you're smoking your profits or getting high on your own supply. Either one of those two things, she could be right in the same boat she's in. So I just think it's important to say that at this point.
So you said no on the tickets.
Yeah,
okay.
no.
Let me catch up on my notes, okay? Sorry, I'm a slow rider. You're doing good, Tabitha. Pay for the electric? Is that what you told me?
My gas.
Pay for gas, okay. All right, what's the next thing he said? He says, you got any drugs? You tell him about they're paying the gas. Okay, I got that.
He said, could you let me, can I see? I said, that's when I said, I think I said again, why you always coming over here by yourself and it ain't nobody, you know, a lady detective with you? Why do you always want to see me, you know, and you by yourself? Now I went ahead and did it again. And he's like, I think.
Is this before he talked to your daughter?
Before he talked to Ariana.
Okay. So the kids are where?
Standing in the yard.
Okay.
And she was standing there.
So why by yourself? What does he say after you ask him why you always by yourself? Trying to see me.
He didn't really say nothing. He didn't comment on it. He was like, I want to say, he said, I'm doing you a favor. Or what?
Okay.
And
what's he say?
I can remember.
What's he say or do next? After you confront him about?
He get out his car. He get out the front seat, open up the back seat, and he was like, before I let you out, I gotta check you.
Did he already run you yet?
Yeah, I was sitting right there when he ran me.
Okay, so he would run you during this time period. Was it over the radio?
Yes.
Did he pull you up on the screen?
I didn't look at I know he was messing with the screen, but I could hear the lady that ran back, you know, told him that I had the ticket.
Okay. Before I let you go, he said what?
You asked me again, do I have drugs on me? I said no. And that's when he was saying, well, I'm about to check you. And I raised my shirt up. He looked.
Hang on, was it? I'm about to check you?
I'm gonna have to check you.
Did he tell you to raise your shirt or what?
Yes.
How did he say it?
Lift your shirt up. And I did like this. I said, I don't have nothing on me. He said, got anything in your pants?
So it wasn't the whole belly thing? It was all the way up?
Yeah.
So he lifted all the way up because that's what he had you do before?
Yeah. It's like it was the same routine.
Let me ask you this, Tabitha. Did you go to the belly or did you just automatically go up?
Just automatically go up.
Automatic. Okay. So you had no bra on, correct?
Not very. Not that time. The first time I did.
First time you did have a bra? Oh, I thought you said the other day you did not have a bra.
The first time I had a bra on because I lifted it up. Lifted the bra up, and it wasn't good enough for him. That's when he lifted up my breast. This time, I know I didn't have no bra on.
On the first time? But he picked up your bare breasts.
Okay. I had it because I just did like this with my shirt and my bra.
And then he had you expose them.
Yeah.
So you had to pull your bra up over your breast on that first time?
And with my shirt.
Is that correct?
Yes, with my shirt.
I'll make that correction in my report. I misunderstood you. I didn't think you had a bra on that first time. So you did have a bra. He just had you pull it up and then he lifts it up. Okay, this time you had no bra. So your breasts are exposed. And what's he say?
You got anything in your pants? I said no. And he was like, just kept looking at it, and he was like, let me see. And I had on leggings to tights, and I pulled him out, and he just looked. He's like, okay, I'm gonna let you go this time. Then he said, I'm gonna let you go this time. I said about 2 weeks later.
Hang on 1 second. Okay, so this time he did not touch your breasts.
He just looked.
And he did not touch your vagina.
No.
Okay, so no touching.
The second time.
Okay, but you mentioned earlier that this is where you saw the $20 bill.
That second time I seen a $20 bill in the back seat.
What did he say about the 20? He said something.
He said, don't touch, make sure my $20 is back there. And I was like, what? I said, no. I said, I had $20 too. Because I had it in my bra. The time I had it in my bra, it's in my hand. I know I had $20. I was like, hold up, I got $20 too. And then I looked in the bag and there was a $20 bill in his back seat. I said, I didn't touch your $20.
What do you say you
And
had
I said,
$20 for?
That's what I said. I said, and what's the $20 for? He said, I got my reasons. I got my reasons.
So that was his 20 in the back.
And when I got out, it remained in the same spot in the back seat.
Where was it back there?
In the middle.
Right in the middle? Could you see it when you sat down?
Well, I wasn't looking, but when he mentioned it, when I got out, I looked.
And you could see it.
And I looked and I seen it.
Okay, so
he came back.
hang on 1 second, Tabitha. You said so he never did have your kids go inside, right?
Yeah,
on the second time?
Yeah, he said, she's okay, you can go in.
You said something about scaring the kids, and
I told him that. I said, you keep frightening my kids, you keep coming over here, and he told her to come here. And he's like, she's okay. I'm just talking to her about some things. Y'all can go ahead and go in. My thing is, okay, he went in my house for no reason, was not called to go inside my home.
he said he was already in there?
He told me this.
Who was inside?
Terry Williams,
Who's Terry Williams?
an ex-friend of mine.
How do I get a hold of Terry?
He ain't allowed me.
Do you have
I'll give me your number.
Okay, can you give me his number too?
He lost that phone, that's why I said I give him your number. But he was asleep. He was sleeping in the house. He said that because I told him what happened, what he made me do. He was like, you can do something about that. I said, now who's gonna believe me over a police officer's word?
But he tells you he was inside and Terry was there?
Yes, he was asleep. Terry was asleep in my home.
So he knew he was asleep.
And he knew it.
And he said,
I've been all in your house. I said, for what reason? I said, you just walking out. I said, okay, you been in my house, okay. So, I'm not hiding nothing. Nothing's in my home. This is what got me. I want to say the next day, it seemed like he just came on duty.
hang on, Tabitha. And I know you want to get on to the next deal. I just want to cover this. He said he was all up in the house and there was a guy asleep on the couch.
No, in the room.
In the room?
In the room. Terry said when he woke up, he woke him up with a flashlight in his face.
And what did he say? What did Terry say?
I asked him his name again. I guess ran his name and left out. But who knows how long he was in the house.
Okay, so Terry, do you know how to Terry Williams? Okay.
Yeah, who knows?
And he said he ran him?
Yeah, and Terry said, because we had an incident when we call him Shorty. Shorty and his friend get off. When they get off of work, they would come over here and chill with me when they got off of work. And Jesse, I don't know Jesse's last name, but I can get it. When they got off of work, they would sit right here. I mean, he pulled Jesse out the truck one day, told him he had on makeup, that he was gay. They had just got off work. I mean, would just come here, I don't know what his thing was.
You talking about the cop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Told him he had on makeup, that he was gay, and all kind of stuff. Oh, okay. Nothing. They came back because okay, we're gonna rewind that because after he made me the ice cream situation, was waiting to go get ice cream. I want to say 3 days or something later, a guy broke in my home, and there we was having a slumber party. So it was a lot of girls. I have more kids.
Before this time that we just talked about?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And he was one of the officers that showed up out of probably 10.
But nothing happened that day?
No, he kept asking me, where's all the girls that was in the house? But
that day that their slumber party thing, he didn't do anything to you?
That's when he started coming. Afterwards. That's when he started coming.
So, slumber party.
We went to eat.
Lots of kids?
Yeah, a lot of girls. It was the girls.
But there was more cops.
Yeah, because I had to call him for the break-in. So, but he seen, everybody was in the house. They was all little girls.
And then this other time was days later. That's when he has you sit in the car.
Yeah, he asked me about that. He was like, where's all...
He said he was all up in your house.
Yeah.
Did he say anything specific about your house?
No, he was just like, I was all in your house. I said, well, why would you be in my home? I didn't call you. You should be taking care of the guy that was on the ground.
Was Terry a boyfriend or what?
Yeah.
Is he? Okay. So he was in your bedroom?
Actually, my son's room sleep.
I can tell you, folks, that there's something you don't yet know about this guy, Terry. And I can tell you that I find it extremely, extremely troubling that he was sleeping in her son's room and not in her own bed. So I find that to be a little bit troubling.
Okay. Make sure you get me Terry's name, okay? Or his phone number, pass on. I need to get a hold of him. Okay. So this next thing... So he didn't touch you on that, but then the next time, how much later are we? Let's go to this one.
This is when it ended. He came over.
How much later?
The next day.
So 2 weeks plus a day.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I want to say like a month ago he came too, but I didn't open the door. I was looking at him through the window.
Okay, folks, now that claim right there is extremely problematic. Do you understand? Because Daniel had been put on administrative leave and did not have a vehicle, badge, anything, whatever, wouldn't have been at her door because that was all taken away from him in June. Okay? And it's August 17th when she's saying this. So a month before that would be in July. Daniel was well into the period of administrative leave, and there's no way he would have been able to show up at her door dressed as an officer in any kind of police car at all. So that claim right there is another claim that Tabitha Barnes makes that throws her accusations into an arena of being suspect, because she's clearly making a claim like that, which is so obviously false. It's ridiculously false. So it means one of two things. Either she doesn't really recognize Daniel, or she's, making this up out of nowhere because her friend told her that she might be able to get a payday out of it. Her friend Florine Mathis maybe told her the cops are looking for victims of this police officer. So, could be. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying it's highly plausible. That's what I'm saying. Okay, alright, moving on.
Was he in uniform?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 2 weeks. So it was the very next day.
Okay, he came, and I opened up the door. I was cooking, and I didn't know what to do, so I called my mother in Texas to let her listen. Because he would always ask me for my phone. Every time, the first times, but I was in my house this time.
But this is the next day after he sat you out here in his car.
Came over here, and he was like...
About what time?
but I knew his hours too, about 4:30.
4:30 during the day.
He had to just come on duty because you could smell his cologne, and he didn't look like he had just, been out. He ain't been out. He looked like he just came on.
Okay.
So
he goes to the door, he knocks.
Knocks hard. My brother was here then, Danny Brown.
You said you called your mother?
I called my mom on my phone. I was already telling her that I was tired of him, wanting to see my body, and I didn't know what to do about it. My mother lives in Texas.
Okay.
So, he said...
You opened the door.
I opened the door.
Okay.
He was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Cooking dinner for my kids." He said, "Can I come in?" I said, "No." "So you're not gonna, I need to come search your house for drugs." I said, "You want to come search my house for drugs?" I said, "I don't know where you're getting your information from, but it's the wrong information, first of all." I said, "Second of all, you just told me you was all in my house last night. If you, if anything was in my home, you would have seen it then," was my point. So, he said, "So you're not going to let me in?" I said, "No." He said, "Who here with you?" I said, "Me and my kids." I didn't even tell my brother was with me. I said, "Me and my kids." And he was like, "So you're not going to let me in?" I said, "No." He said, "All right." He started talking. I don't know what he mumbled under his breath. What he mumbled under his breath. And he was like, "I'm helping you. I'm doing you a favor. You haven't paid your fucking tickets." And I heard him say that. He said, "I'll be back." I was like, "Okay." And that was in May. So May 1st, my mom had a heart attack.
So this is, wait, you said the first incident was March 4th. You said 2 weeks later was this incident. And that would still be in March.
So I said in May, In May, I left like May 1st.
Oh, you
and
left.
I never seen him again. And
where did you go? Down to your mama's?
Yeah, I left for 3 months.
Okay, and that was the last time you actually had any dealings with him?
Face to face.
Okay.
When he wanted to come in, what reason, I don't know.
Okay. Let me kind of cover this just a little bit more. Okay. First time was March 4th. That's where he had you lift your shirt and your bra. And that's where he lifted up your breasts.
Yeah.
Kind of about where we're parked a little bit right now.
Right here.
There's a call at your house. This is in reference to the break-in. He comes with other officers. There's dealings with a slumber party, but he doesn't do anything to you then.
No.
Okay, because there's other officers.
Yeah, I went my own self and I told, the man that broke in my house, we actually held him down until the officers got here.
Is he the main officer on that call? Okay. Then it was 2 weeks after the first incident. That's when he pulls you back here. He has you lift your shirt all the way, and then he has to see down your pants. Could he see your vagina on that second time?
Yeah.
You had on what color leggings?
I had on black leggings with no panties. I didn't have no under.
Did he know you didn't have any underwear?
Not at the time. And I'm sure he didn't.
Okay.
Until...
And going along with that, he has you pull. How does he ask to see you got anything down your pants?
I did like this. No, I don't. He said he had his flashlight.
Oh, he was looking down.
Yeah, he had his flashlight. I said, no, I do not.
So you just flipped it out?
Yeah.
And then, does he say anything when you flip it out?
He never said nothing, but
Something that occurs to me as I'm listening to, this particular part and stuff is, and as we listen to other, the other interviews and stuff is, my whole thing is, obviously earlier in this episode, you guys all heard about Shannon right? One of Daniel's ex-girlfriends, bodybuilder, fitness model that he had, worked out with and competed with, and they were on the same kind of bodybuilding team and all that sort of stuff, right? But so you hear about that, and you hear that that he had also dated one of the other girls on the team, and so Brian Bates points out that Daniel Holtzclaw clearly has a type of very, very young, fit young ladies. Right? Am I right? That is clearly what Daniel gravitates to. So I'm left with this question. Knowing this about Daniel, and that he clearly has a very, very specific type, why would he be taking so much interest in these African American prostitutes with drug problems who are about twice his age? Why would he? This is another part of this that doesn't make sense. When we know that Daniel clearly has a type, it doesn't make sense that he would be wanting to seek out anything sexual from these women who are basically twice his age. And it doesn't seem like he's having much trouble getting the ladies, to be perfectly honest. So that's just another thing that I sit here and as I'm listening to this stuff, it's just another thing. Doesn't mean it's not like hardcore proof Daniel's innocent, but it's just another thing that logically doesn't really work as I listen to these allegations and things against Daniel, is that it just doesn't fit, considering what we know about him having a type. So, all right, let's move on.
Okay. Was your legs faced out here?
No, they were still in the car.
Okay. Okay. So then you had your. But he didn't touch you. It was lifting the shirt. Okay. What kind of a shirt did you have on then?
I wear a lot of t-shirts, so it's probably like a white t-shirt.
Okay.
Basically, because I wear a lot of t-shirts.
Okay. Could your kids see any of this?
No.
Were they out there?
I think Ariana was on the porch, but...
Did he ask to see your breast or touch your breast?
When?
On the second time.
No, he just asked me to raise my shirt up. Asked me did he always say, "Do you got drugs on you?" And I would say no. I don't know, you getting your information. He was like, well, I'm gonna have to check you. Can you raise your shirt? I mean, just like he would ride by my house every day. I got to the point where I wouldn't even come outside. Like, I would bark because I didn't want him messing with me. I would just watch him do other girls like that outside. I would look out the window.
What do you mean?
They could be walking and he could be just stop them randomly.
Do you know of anybody that he's done this to?
I don't know nobody over here. So I would call my daughter. I'd be like, look, he doing it to them. And I seen him once before.
But you don't know a name?
Don't know no names. And he would let them go all the time. And once again, he couldn't. I don't know what happened, but I was seeing him. Every time I seen him stop anybody, it was a female.
All right, I don't know if you guys caught that, but it's interesting because the prosecution and the detectives in this case continuously claim that Daniel was procuring sexual favors in order to not take these women in on these warrants, which not all of them had. And the ones that did have warrants, they were city warrants. Okay, just city warrants that usually most officers don't mess with, as has been amply proven. But what's interesting here is you heard what Tabitha Barnes just said. That and you know she had a white hot interest in what Daniel was doing, right? She was looking out that window. You know she was looking for any sign of misconduct. And she's saying she saw Daniel messing with girls outside of her window, and you heard what she just said, and he always let him go. That's what they usually do, unless it's a serious matter, unless there's a serious warrant, something serious that they could actually get in trouble if they don't act on, then they'll do something. That's the way it usually goes, you know? So, but I just think it's interesting right there that she actually attests to seeing multiple times with multiple different girls of Daniel pulling them over, you know, whatever, talking with them, checking them out or whatever, and letting them go. Right? Okay, moving on.
I seen him stop someone at the Northeast 16 store.
I want you to describe him again to me. Make sure I got him.
About 6'1",
Okay.
probably 6'2".
You said he was what race?
He's white,
Okay. What color skin?
white skin.
I mean, like
a tan color, like an Indian tan color to me. Not dark, but you know, he wasn't pale.
So there's a picture of what Daniel Holt's car looks like, and I leave it to your discretion as the viewer as to whether or not he fits that description you just heard.
okay.
Tall guy,
What would he wear?
broad shoulders. He would always have his hair, like, I guess he would do it with hairspray.
What color hair?
Like a brown in it, brownish, light brown, and it would be spiked up in the front.
I am currently looking for a picture where Daniel has his hair spiked in such a way as Tabitha Barnes suggests right here. I have not found one yet, but I'm going to keep looking for a bit before I say that Daniel, you know, never used that hairstyle. But so far as I've been able to see in all the pictures I've found of Daniel so far, I've never seen him with a picture with his hair all spiky, where it might look like he used a bunch of hairspray to keep it that way. But as I said, I'll continue to look before I say anything definitive on that. But so far, I haven't seen anything to suggest that he ever did his hair that way, which is another odd statement here from Tabitha Barnes.
What do you think he would weigh? Because the other day you said he was really built.
He is up here, like a stocky built to me. He probably hitting about 230.
Anything else about him?
He was young. He wasn't an older guy. He was probably, I say, in his 30s, 34. Might be younger than that, but he wasn't like in his 40s or nothing like that.
And never caught his name?
No, never got his name. I just would tell my mom and my family, like, they was just like, it's something you can do about it. I'm like, they're not gonna believe me. He was a young guy. He wasn't older. He looked like a rookie. I mean, I watch movies. I know he wasn't your age, you know, old school guy, no.
See any scars, marks, tattoos?
No, but if
Okay.
you show me a picture, I bet y'all can identify him. Because he would come over here, just come. Drive through, come.
You said it was a new car he was driving.
He usually came in that little Z20. I don't know if I know my cars, but like the new one, the new black and white.
Is it black and white or all black?
All black, and got police on it. And the last stop he made, I can't quote what date it was, but he was in the older car, the older.
Okay, so you see, this is where the kind of statements where it becomes problematic, because Daniel didn't drive black and white, and she's claiming that on this third stop that he showed up in a black and white, the older version, which he didn't have. So this is where we run into problems. Now, there's other problems that you're going to kind of see here in a second. There's fair amount of things here where there's a problem. She's about to make a claim here in a minute. She's about to make a claim that is like utterly impossible. And in fact, it's so utterly impossible that Detective Gregory literally just ignores the fact that she said it and moves on. He just doesn't even acknowledge it and moves forward so that he could leave it out of his report, which he does. So, all right, we'll get to that in just a second, but wanted to point that out.
Car, and I was trying to do a little searching on him, and
So the second time he was in an older car?
the last time he came, and I didn't open the door. I was looking out the window at him. He parked back by right here.
And he wanted to walk.
He came in one of them cars.
So he wanted to just, he wanted in your house.
That was the time he wanted in my house. That's the last face-to-face he seen with me. He wanted to come in. I said, come in for what? He said, to search your home. I said, search my home for what? You was just in here last night. Did I have any drugs laying around? Did you see any doobies in my house? I smoke cigarettes. I know you seen nothing but cigarettes. I said, you seen no alcohol in my home, no alcohol bottles, no beer bottles, nothing.
You ever, okay. So he only touched your breast once, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You ever touch your vagina?
No, he just looked at it.
You ever have sex with you?
No.
Okay. You ever see his penis?
No.
Do you ever talk about having sex with you?
No.
Can you think of any other thing that I'm missing or anything like that?
No, that was about it with him. He just... And I was just kind of... I mean, when I had to move to Texas for that month to help my mom, when I had to move to Texas for that month to help my mom, that's probably what saved me with that man.
Okay. Was here for the first and second stops, correct? Okay. Is she here?
Mm-hmm.
You think you could send her out so I can talk with her? Okay. See, I thought he originally had touched you on your vagina. I was going to get your buccal swabs because there's some DNA questions out there we have.
He didn't put his hands. He just did my breast.
Bare breasts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, if I have anything, I'll probably just swing by. So don't wig out if I come back by, okay?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'll just talk with and I need your mom's number.
Okay.
And then I need that information to Terry as well.
Okay.
Okay.
With Tabitha Barnes' second interview completed, Detective Gregory next interviews Barnes' 11-year-old daughter. Out of an abundance of caution, I have decided to redact Barnes' daughter's name. When referencing the daughter in the future, I will simply refer to her by the alias Jamie, which is not her real name. The following is the audio recording of Detective Gregory's interview with Jamie in his vehicle while parked in front of Barnes' home on Northeast 15th Street.
Hey. Let me send this. Hey, I'm Detective Gregory. I was kind of the ugly guy here the other day sitting in the car with your mama. Okay. All right. Now you correct? Mm-hmm. All right. And Tabitha, that is your mother, correct? How old are you?
10.
Okay. What's your date of birth?
03.
What's month and day? Okay. This this deal in reference to the officer. Okay, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you know about the situation? What have you seen for yourself to happen?
That he was asking my mom to show her body, and then he kept sitting right here in front of our house. Then he kept asking him, "Why you coming here? Why you coming here?" And then my auntie said, "Cause I'm living with her right now." And then he said, "Oh," and then he keep coming back. He just kept coming back for no simple reason. Then when we was gone, he came in our house. My stepdad was in the bed asleep. And then my stepdad said he came in the house while we was gone. And then we was about to go get some ice cream, and he pulled us over for no simple reason. We all had on seatbelts. The tag was right. My mama, she didn't have license, but the person that was driving, they had license.
Okay. And I know that there's different times, and is it just so I'll be clear, I think in my mind, is that when there was snow on the ground?
No.
When they pulled into the driveway? How many times have you seen this officer yourself? Forget about what you've heard. How many times have you seen him, just yourself?
Like 4 or 5 times.
Where have you always seen him at?
Right here, where you parked. He always just sit right here.
Since when was the first time you ever saw him? And this is August.
About March.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and this is, I know what you've heard. The story that you just told me, I'm sure that your mama told you that, correct?
My mom told me what?
About what happened?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so I'm just trying to get what you actually saw, okay? With your own eyes and heard with your own ears. Okay.
Here I just want to point out that Rocky clearly notices that things that Jamie is saying are, well, he clearly realizes that it was all fed to her by her mother. He's clear, and he tells her, he's telling her, like, those are things that your mom told you, right? So it's, at that point he should have realized, okay, yeah, this isn't going to help. This girl really only saw a couple things, and as far as, the most, like the break-ins and the things that happen like that, she wasn't there. And so she really doesn't have any first-hand account information that will really help in his mind. That's what he's basically telling her there. And so he's asking her, he's basically trying to get her to, he's asking her to focus again and to tell him just things that she saw. So, like I said, but they end up putting her on, they end up putting her on the stand at trial, and it doesn't go well for them there either. And it's, for me, it's shocking that the jury did not see what was going on when they're putting people like young Jamie up on the stand and watching, the way it falls apart. But it's hard to say what the jury was thinking. So we'll move on.
Okay. Did you ever see him do anything, touch your mama badly?
No, I only heard her say that he asked her to see her breasts, and he kept saying, I would like to see those.
What else did your mama say?
That's all she told me.
Did your mama say anything that he did touch him?
Yeah.
All right, but you never did see him actually touch her.
I saw her. I saw him like try to touch her arm, and then she was just like yanking away.
Okay, but not anywhere else besides the arm.
No.
Okay. Okay. You ever tell you to go inside the house or anything?
Yeah.
How many times?
Like, every time he come.
Okay. How many times do you have your mama sit in the back seat of the car?
Every time he comes, he be like, last time he said, tell her to sit in the front. She said, I'll just sit in the back.
But you've always seen him here at this house. Okay. What'd this officer look like?
Yeah, spikes.
What do you mean?
He had spikes in his hair.
What color hair?
It was like grayish. It was grayish and he was buff a little bit.
Grayish hair for Daniel Holtzclaw? No, I don't think so. But it's part of what makes, the accounts here so hard to know what might be true and what might not be. Obviously some things we can obviously tell aren't accurate, but like that's because we have other things to indicate that to us. But in things where we don't have any peripheral information around the fact to tell us, or whether it's right or not, we're having to trust to their account when we can clearly see there's issues in their account. Clearly, Daniel doesn't have gray hair. He's far too young for that.
About how tall? But he was buff. Okay. Do you know what he'd weigh? Okay. Do you know how old he'd be? But you've seen him 4 or 5 times here. Okay. Did your mama ever tell you anything else besides the breast stuff? Okay. Okay. I think that's really all I needed. I'm going to go touch base with your mama. Thank you.
I'm going to conclude this episode at this point. In the next episode, I will be providing more details as to Barnes's allegations and the red flags that Detective Gregory intentionally left out of his official investigative report. For example, Barnes's home is often visited by accuser Florine Mathis from episode 10, and there she and Florine often smoke crack together. Patrol Officer Holtzclaw believes Barnes is dealing crack cocaine out of her home. And what about Terry Williams, the boyfriend who often stays overnight at Barnes's residence with her children and was sleeping in one of the children's beds when confronted by Holtzclaw? Well, he's a registered sex offender, and Detective Gregory didn't think that was important to include in his report.
Alrighty, folks, so that is going to wrap up part 1 regarding Florine Mathis and Tabitha Barnes. Like I said, putting these two together because they are connected. They're very much connected. I think it's very likely that Tabitha Barnes came forward because she had heard from her friend Florine that they were looking to take down a cop and everything. So I think it's possible. And obviously, Tabitha Barnes had a great deal of reason to dislike Daniel because he was clearly on her butt. He was clearly, concerned about her house being a crack house. And like I said, wouldn't surprise me one bit if he was worried about the kids that were there and a lot of things. And that could be why he had taken such an interest in this house. Obviously saw the people coming and going from that house, which he probably figured weren't very good for those kids. There's a lot of reasons why I feel like Daniel could have easily taken an interest in what was going on at Tabitha Barnes' house, because he could have been very concerned. I would have been. I certainly would have been. So, now, do I think if he actually did go in and do all that kind of stuff, I think he was going too far. But hey, then you prosecute him for unlawful entry. Okay? That's what you prosecute him for. You don't prosecute him for rape and all kinds of stuff that seems pretty obvious never took place. And to get him for all those things instead of unlawful entry, if that's what you really want to go after him for. But that's not what you really want to go after him for, is it, Oklahoma? You wanted to go after him for the sensational, rape and all that kind of stuff, So that's what you ended up doing. This case is classic with it's stupid with all the indicators of a wrongful conviction. These detectives are literally making they're making every wrong move at every opportunity. It's just ridiculous to watch. I can't believe that the courts are looking at this investigation and they're thinking there's nothing wrong with it. That's another problem with our courts. Our courts have their heads so far up their butts. They've got serious blinders on, and they are refusing to acknowledge the data that's coming out of the Innocence Projects that's telling us how our investigators and our prosecutors are getting it wrong, and they're just kind of, la 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 la, I can't see you. That's kind of what they're doing. And the courts have a bit of a responsibility in this as well. As much as the investigators and the prosecutors, it's the judges that let this crap happen who are also culpable, in my opinion. So I'll be back with part 2, which will be a deeper analysis. Basically with Brian Bates doing his analysis, but with me jumping in and offering my bit of analysis here and there. So we'll be back with part 2 to go into further, deeper analysis into Florine Mathis and Tabitha Barnes. So I hope to see you guys then. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.